Today I am going to share with you another seitan recipe. It is quite different than the steak recipe that I shared recently. It is simpler in ingredients, and so I think if you haven't made seitan before, this might be a good starter recipe. It will have some more elements to it after I make the seitan because this is going to be a spicy, crispy chicken. So I'm also going to eventually bread it and do some other things to it, but let's start with the basics. We are going to mix up our spicy chicken mix here. So I'm going to take 2 cups of Vital Wheat gluten. Again, if you're not very familiar with this, you can often find it in stores. I think Bob's Red Mill and other brands are sometimes available, or online if you can't find it in the store. So 2 good cups of that. I'm going to do about 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Again, this should be pretty widely available at this point, but if you can't find it in person, you can definitely find it online. This has a nutty, cheesy kind of flavor that I really like. I put nutritional yeast in a lot of my recipes, and not just in my recipes that I make like seitan, but also just straight as it is on a salad. Super, super yummy. I'm also gonna put in, let's see, a teaspoon and a half or so of poultry seasoning. So I get that familiar flavor. If you don't have poultry seasoning, you could pull out the individual elements that you like. If you have basil, rosemary, oregano, those kind of things, you can add a little bit of that in. And I'm gonna do about a teaspoon of onion powder and a teaspoon of garlic powder. I actually prefer the granules to the powder just because they're easier to work with. My garlic is really messy. So we've got those in. And then I'm also gonna put a teaspoon of salt here. All right, perfect. So besides those things, I also need some liquid, of course, to add to my mix. I have about 3/4 of a cup of fake chicken stock. Now you can just use regular old veggie stock or water. I always say it, water has no flavor, why use water? And I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of tahini in as well. I'm gonna go ahead and mix that with my stock because that will give me the ability to blend it in a little better than if I just try to add it directly into my bowl with my Vital Wheat gluten. Okay, and one more thing I missed over here. I'm gonna put a 1/2 cup of hot sauce in this as well. So I have this Frank's. You can use your favorite hot sauce. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour it right into my measuring cup. See if I have a 1/2 cup. I might have to improvise a little bit today and add a little bit of extra something else. Okay, very good. So I'm gonna give that one quick little mix before I get this all together. So that's it, it's just these ingredients you see here. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And I'm gonna use my steaming method again for cooking, as I typically do. We'll get there. Mix my dry ingredients up a smidge. Add my wet. Oh, I can smell that hot sauce. I'm so excited about this. I haven't had this for a while. Cat lunchtime. I don't know if you heard that, but they have little feeders that go off automatically so they don't drive us nuts in the middle of the night. Okay, I'm gonna get this mixed together. I'll hold it up for you in a second. I just do this one by hand. Some of my seitan recipes I've done in the food processor. This one doesn't need to because it doesn't have tofu or anything else that I'm worried about not incorporating well. So I'm gonna keep giving this a good mix, and then I will be right back with you and show you the sizes of pieces that are good for this particular recipe. Okay, here we are. I've got my seitan here all ready to go. I am going to press it out a little bit on the counter. Sometimes I do get my rolling pin out for this. It depends how much resistance it's going to give me. But again, you can see that it's got all of that really good gluten holding it together. It's gonna give it a really good texture, and I can smell that hot sauce. It's gonna taste awesome. So, what I do next, sometimes I will cut, sometimes I will rip. I think I'm gonna rip today. Basically, it depends if you want to do a spicy chicken sandwich, then you have to be more careful with your size, or just a spicy chicken breast, if you will, which is probably what I'll do. Make some Brussels sprouts with it. And just like bread, this is gonna rise, so that's why I'm taking this extra time to make sure it's not too thick. Otherwise, I'm gonna end up with like big heaping stacks, which is not what I'm going for today. All right, so here we have it. I'm gonna go ahead and start ripping it up. So again, whatever size you wish, don't go too big. It's gonna blow up when you cook it. So I'm gonna go about this big for each piece. Doesn't have to be the same, doesn't have to be pretty. And we'll see how many pieces I get out of this. You can bake or steam. All right, we are back. So the seitan has been chilled in the fridge for a couple hours. I'd say always do about a minimum of an hour to rest that. What I've got here, pardon the lighting, is a dry and a wet mix. So the dry mix is gonna be about 1.5 cups of flour and about 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch. The cornstarch really helps hold everything together. And then also I have about a teaspoon of cayenne, a teaspoon of garlic, white pepper, what else? Paprika, and that's about it, a little salt. So that's my dry mix. My wet mix is about 1 cup of almond milk and then about 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. What that does is it kind of makes a vegan buttermilk. So it gets it a little thicker, it kind of curdles a bit, and so that's also gonna help us with the hold. And I also put some hot sauce in here, about 1 tablespoon of that. So I'm gonna kind of go back and forth a bit, start in a little bit of flour, and then go into my wet mix. And then I'm gonna take it back to the flour after it gets good and wet here. The double dry seems to do the trick usually. I will also show you one of these before I get it all dipped in a second here. So this is after they've rested, by the way, for, oh, now I've got flour all over it, for at least an hour. So it's got that kind of cool fried chicken look already. I'm just gonna bread the rest of these in this mixture. I'm probably gonna put it in the fridge for a while, not do it right away because it's early for dinner. And pretty far in here. Super yummy. The extra sauce that I added made it nice and kicky. Kicky enough that even I, who love spicy food, wanted a little ranch on it, so. No regrets. Super yummy dinner. Try it out.